Seeing is believing. Let's just have a quick little talk about faith and seeing is believing, because the people that need to see never believe. And believing is, how do you believe in something in your head that you've never seen before? How can you believe in a God you've never seen? How can you believe in a God you can never touch? And I'm in Boston years ago, I saw some amazing miracles, and whether you believe in them or not is irrelevant to me. But I saw some amazing miracles, and people that were deaf hearing, and I remember when that happened. The first time it happened was an 11-year-old boy in Peabody, Massachusetts, in a Brazilian church. I prayed for that boy whose mother had rubella when he was born, so he couldn't hear properly. And for the first time in his life, he heard. And I'd spent a lifetime trying to get people healed, trying to think how to get God to do this, do that, and it never seemed to work. Here it was, and it worked. And it troubled me more than it troubled anybody else that was in the room, I think. But it set me on a path of discovery, and I've learned something here that I want to impart to those that have a willingness to hear. When you need to see something, you're that type of person that wants to have control. You're trying to control your life, control your outcome, control where you're going, control what you're seeing. And if God will be controllable by me, then I'll acknowledge that maybe he's real. And really, in essence, you want God to work for you. And a lot of that comes out of what I would call an orphan heart. A heart that is orphaned, it's alone, it feels alone, and it can't seem to connect. And I had that. A heart that just never seemed to be able to find God in the way I wanted to. It was I would try harder, I would do more, and I just could never seem to get there. And then you can read my book, Vegetable Garden Faith and a Corvette, which is where you can see the transition from a religious man to where I am today. But it, to me, became romance, spiritual romance, divine romance. Think about romance for a moment. You can't, there's all the mosquitoes trying to romance me. Romance, you can't make it happen. Your romance, you can't talk to me about. If you've never had romance, and most people haven't, I guess, they think romance is sex. It's not. Sex is an action. Romance is a movement of the heart. Romance is where you could sit on a mountaintop and just be lost with each other for days. And what about work? Well, no, you're just not even a thought. You're just lost in the essence of each other and who each other are. You can't make that happen. I can't choose a woman and say, I'm going to have romance with her. You can't force that. It has to be something that, I can try to get her attention, and ultimately romance could be sparked up and happen. But it's a surrendering it's one person being available and the other surrendering to that flow. That's God with us. And so these people that want to see signs, it's like these, I call them transactional marriages today. People are in marriages that are transactional. For the man, it's sex. It's provide for me, give me things. For women, maybe, give me a house, give me a car, give me a child, make me feel loved and important. And really, in essence, that is not true. Let's say this: there's a greater depth of love than what most will ever experience or take the time to experience, and that's God. Because I found as I wanted God to do things and I'd pray for him to heal people, nothing would happen. And then, as you can see in my book, I went across the US and back, and with no visible means of income, in a motorhome that was sovereignly provided. And I didn't raise funds, I didn't ask people for money, I was just winged it. And what I discovered on that trip was romance, that this God actually cared about me when nobody else did. And they cared, but nobody else knew my needs. And I think when I prayed for that 11-year-old boy, when I said, oh God, it just came out of a depth of me, a divine romantic depth of a God who'd fed my family when nobody really knew we had a need. I'd surrendered the control of my life because he broke it out of me. I got so broken trying to control things I couldn't control. Ultimately, when it was broken out of me, as I just said, oh God, it came from my depth of me. And it was linked with a God of creative romance. And that young boy, 11-year-old boy, was healed. And that went on to see 9 months of people in Boston, Brazil, places like that, just seeing amazing miracles, which I don't need to go into because I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. But what I'm saying is in that, it was the romance of God, the divine romance, I like to call it. And I believe it's sad that many people will never experience that. You know, a pretty lady, most of the time, all they'll experience is being abused for their body, abused for their looks. They become trophy wives. You know, a good-looking man or a rich man, a trophy man. And instead of actually having that divine connection, I like to say you make love to the spirit first, their spirit, then make love to their soul, and then their natural. But if you go the other way, the natural first, you will never get to the soul and the spirit without a divine intervention. But that takes two people. And so I think many times people have not surrendered. We don't know how to surrender. Well, how do I surrender? I don't know if I believe in this God. He's just, you know, what's he ever done for me? What's it? And, you know, and it all becomes about, let's put it down to one thing, control. Your control. You've been abused. You've been misused. That's what life's for. You've been trodden over. You've been betrayed. You've been hated. You've been spat on. And you've got an attitude towards God. If God was real, this would never happen. Yeah, well, maybe you just ignored it. And I think when that romantic flow happens, when you start to just enjoy life, when life enters you and you enter life, that's when the divine happens. That's when surrender happens. That's where I surrendered my very essence to the love of Jesus. And to me, it was not, you know, I think church makes an industry of sin. They camp out at the cross of Jesus and they make it all about sin, the right, the wrong, the right, the wrong. And because they can control there, it's the last point they can control. Whereas I like to say that God doesn't see your sin when there's love. And God is love. He looks at you and he knows that sin's there and sin's affecting you and things are hurting you, what we would call sin, religion. And he just says, I love you. We make a focus of it. He just says, I love you. Love conquers all. When I found the divine romance of God, I was imperfect. I still are. I still mess up. I still say things wrong. I hurt people I don't want to hurt. I do things I don't want to do. And wretched man that I am, I do the things I don't really want to do. But he loves me. Love triumphs through all. And what did I do? I surrendered to that. Whereas I didn't understand it. I couldn't understand it. I didn't feel worthy of it. I didn't feel right for it. So I just let it go. I said, God, just take me. If you can love someone like me, love me. Jesus, take my life. That's what Calvary's about. That's what Jesus bought us. He put sin there, so knowing that we would fail. And when we fail, we feel not good enough. But he's saying, no, you're missing the point. I knew you would fail. That's why I put sin there. But when you surrender and you let go, you'll find unconditional love. I love you no matter what you've done, God said. I find the same with my relationship. I don't have a relationship. Why? Because I'm not looking for an interview process. I'm not looking for the checking the boxes. It's a case of saying that same flow, when somebody can flow with you in the spirit, in the soul, and in the natural, you've got something for life. You've got an eternal love. So today, if you're somebody that's looking to understand God, I would submit to you that you're abused and you're hurt. You're looking to say, well, if I see, I'll believe. What you're really saying is, no matter what, I will never believe because I don't feel good enough. Friends, you're not good enough. That's the point. You're loved. You're not good enough. You're never good enough to be loved. But true love loves you. You're never good enough. I've done everything wrong. Yeah, and you're loved. And you're loved. And you're loved. Love conquers all, but you just don't love yourself. Then there's only one person can deal with that. So and that's why I don't like religion, organized religion. Everyone's trying so hard to find things to become a better person. I'm trying. Stop trying and just love. Get out and walk on a beach. Get up on a mountain and just talk to God. God, I don't know if you're real. I don't even know if you care about me. I don't know. But if you are, take me. Start to feel that. Respond. All you can do to romance is respond. But if you're sitting to say, oh, this is fun, bring me some more, or what do I do? Of course it's intimidating and scary. Respond. Respond to God. You say, God, I don't know. I see the trees today and they make me feel alive. Thank you. Respond, friend. You'll be surprised where you end up. You might actually find the divine.